Edge 2021 is pleased to present two of our nation's top state and local government chief information security officers for a candid exchange on cybersecurity threats and challenges at the citizen and citizen service levels of government. As cyber attacks against state and local governments have grown more common and impactful, Texas Chief Information Security Officer Nancy Rainosek provides statewide information security oversight and program guidance to state agencies, institutions of higher education, and other governmental entities. Ms. Rainosek is building a culture of risk awareness and collaboration that keeps the state's municipalities and the essential services they provide secure. In 2019, Nancy Rainosek led the successful push for legislation requiring computer awareness training and certification of all government employees who use computers and mobile devices in their work. She brings more than 30 years of experience to this position. Quiet, shy, and rarely one to share an opinion, Michael T. Dent, oops, wrong intro, rarely shy, and always ready to share an opinion on matters of data protection and security, Michael T. Dent is widely recognized as the leading Chief Information Security Officer of any local government jurisdiction. Under his stewardship managing the data security interests of America's third largest jurisdiction, Fairfax County is regularly ranked first and always in the top 5 best managed government jurisdictions in terms of technology. An executive committee member of the Government Business Executive Forum, Edge 2021 is pleased to welcome to the stage Michael T. Dent. Please welcome to the Edge 2021 stage, Nancy Rainosek.
Don, thank you very much for asking me to be here. Nancy, I'm glad you're here as well. First, man, there's not a lot of people left, so that means all those photos and videos of me last night have left. But if you're in here, I'm going to check you before you leave because I need those back. I need to make sure they're off your phone. Nancy, Don has selected us to, I guess, talk about the state of cyber.
So I'm going to share some stories this morning. Since 2019, Texas has had 110 ransomware incidents in government. 7 of those are at the state level. So you can do the math and figure out what's at the local and school district level in Texas. We've worked really hard. In 2017, we started working together with a number of agencies to develop a plan to respond and help rebuild these governments. And when we started, I kind of looked at it from the state level because that's where my main focus has always been. What if they took out our controller's office and our Department of Public Safety or our Health and Human Services Commission, and how would we respond and continue government operations? But little did I realize that in 2019, we would be faced with a very large cyber event that pulled all these people together. And we were very fortunate that we were prepared. Another thing that really helped us was that Governor Abbott was enabled through legislation to declare a disaster for a cyber event. We're all used to disasters in Texas, hurricanes, fires, floods, but this really put some power behind us to be able to respond when an emergency is declared for a cyber event. And I'm going to take you to May of 2019. A small county in Texas got totally affected by a ransomware incident. And they had a new county judge. The county had 16,000 citizens. The attackers asked for $64,000 in ransom, and they didn't have that kind of money. They counteroffered with $16,000. The criminals came back and said, "Oh, we'll reduce it to 60." And this is when they called us. And we had a county judge. She had been in office for a month, and she was just really beside herself. She really didn't know anything about technology. And we had a plan, and we had worked out all the mechanics to help her out. We have a managed security services contract that we offer a lot of services on demand to local governments and state governments. And these are pre-bids, so we had that option. We can call in our incident responders and have them help them. They couldn't afford that. So our next option was the military department. And the Texas Military Department can be activated through what they call a STAR request. So she issued the disaster, and we got everything in order for the military department to go down there, and we got the STAR request together, and then the leader of the agency that had to approve that request said, I'm not going to do this. We've never done this before.
And that leads me into what a lot of you have heard me talk about, and that's leadership accountability. Today we see cyber attack after cyber attack continue. If we break out those cyber attacks and we look, beyond, through that onion peel that comes off when you have these attacks and we do our incident response, a majority of those, and I'm going to give it a number of 80 to 90% of those, the IT staffs went to leadership with risk, informed them of that risk, and for whatever reason, the decision, and what really gets me is, as a CISO, when you bring risk to your leadership, they accept it, or they don't. And then if they don't, they give you funding, or they should. If they want to accept the risk, then we have to hold them accountable by making them officially accept that risk. We've changed our culture in Fairfax over the 20 years I've been there. Now all the business leaders have to sign off when they ask for something that is a risk, that doesn't meet policy, doesn't meet standards. And it's amazing when you have them put their signature on a piece of paper saying their agency's budget's going to pay for mitigation if we do get hit. They won't sign the document, and then they tell their staffs you need to look elsewhere for another solution or whatever it is. The problem is we don't do this as a standard across the industry because, and many people in here, you might not like me after this, but politics and a culture of elitist culture is what I call it. If you're in a position to make a cyber decision, you need to be accountable for that decision. Don't put the stress and all of the burden on your staffs if you're not going to support them. You're not going to fund the program or whatever it is they need to make sure they're securing the data for those citizens. And Nancy, before you go back, I'm going to tell a lot of you in here that are probably Northern Virginia residents, National Capital Region folks, please use your right as a citizen to go to your boards. In Fairfax, you're probably going to get some good answers, but if you live in Loudoun and somewhere in that National Capital Region, go to your elected officials that you elected. Ask them what they're doing for cyber. Ask them if they have an official program. Do they have a CISO? Who's making the decisions on cyber? I know one large county in that region who just hired a new CIO, but somebody's been making cyber decisions for them. And it's scary, the fact that they've left all of the responsibility on a CISO, but won't let him make those decisions. And that individual's now is going away because they've hired a CIO. But there were a lot of things that were done that caused this individual's program to pretty much not exist. And it's sad. And some of you live in that county. And I really, really urge you, as the chairman for the National Capital Region CISO Committee, 22 local jurisdictions, federal, Red Cross, they all participate, and now we're adding schools. You need to ask those leaders in your jurisdictions what they're doing, because it's your data they're supposed to be protecting. It's your kids' data, your family, whatever, even the businesses that are here. If you're doing business with the county, you need to ask those questions of those elected leaders. This is my main mission for my last 2 years before I retire from Fairfax. The leadership needs to be accountable for making the decisions. You want to provide IT services to your citizens? Give the funding to secure it. There's no reason you shouldn't be securing what you put out there. And I'm tired of hearing cyber costs too much. It's going to cost you a lot more when you get breached. And it's going to be your data that gets taken out. So again, I just ask, please get with your elected officials and ask them what they're doing. It's going to put pressure on them to finally start recognizing and acknowledging they need to do something.
So I'll go back to that county. The military department, we were a team, and there were 4 or 5 agencies involved in developing this plan. We worked for 2 years. We went through training together. We exercised together. We planned. And when the thing got held up, they were like, hey, we're on drill this weekend. We have training. We have training hours. And they drove down there anyways and started the work while we worked through the red tape in Austin to make it happen. And they totally rebuilt the system, their networks, their servers, and did it at a cost way less than the $64,000 that the criminals were asking for. I'm going to switch to another incident, and this was August 16th, 2019. And I was working from home, and at 8:36 in the morning, my deputy calls me, and I always said to him, it's never good when you call me on a Friday. And 8 local governments had been hit with a ransomware attack. And by 11 o'clock, that number rose to 18. And it impacted SCADA system of water utility in one of those local governments. At that time, my boss contacted Governor Abbott, and he did issue a statewide level 2 cyber disaster for the state of Texas, and this was the first one, which activated our state operations center. And this is a center that was essentially built during the Cold War, so that if, something happened that we could continue government operations. It's 3 stories under the ground, a fortified bunker, a huge room, and we all convened there. And this was the Texas Military Department, the Department of Public Safety, the Division of Emergency Management, my office, the Department of Information Resources. My boss was there, the CIO for the state and the executive director. And so we all convened in this center and first sought to figure out what was the cause, how many were impacted, and what were we going to do? What were the next steps? We had a number of vendors that were reaching out to us. We weren't prepared to accept that help at the time. So we went with our managed security service provider. We sat in a room. We had the FBI next to us. We had Texas A&M University. We had the Department of Public Safety and the military department. And we went through the week first wanting to go and shake hands with each of these local governments. And what ended up was they had a managed service provider who was hacked, and through their remote software, they went and then encrypted all of these connected devices. So some were moderately impacted. Some of these governments were very impacted. And when you think about the lower that you get in government service, the closer you are to the citizens. So we've seen where police officers can't pull over people because they can't do the videos in their cars. They fill up and they can't download them to the servers because those aren't available. We've seen where entire water billing systems are wiped out, so they have no idea how much people owe or what their history is. And so that's a huge issue. We've seen where people couldn't get a marriage license, sell their house, all of those things that we as citizens rely on our government to help us through these issues in life. I know that my water bill is based on my history. And so when that goes away, what do? We've seen where they've wiped out all the video evidence for felonies. And these were people that were currently being held yet to go to trial. So there's a real struggle when these things happen. And with this particular incident, you know, we had a lot of very small governments. They hired somebody to help them, and they didn't have an IT staff. So our first goal was, let's get out there, shake their hands, say we're here to help, and we're talking somewhere in the Panhandle, somewhere in West Texas, somewhere in East Texas, somewhere in South Texas. So we had a lot of ground to cover, and we really wanted to do it quickly. The other issue was the vendor's customer list was encrypted. So we didn't even know the population we were starting with. We kind of worked through that. They found a hard copy somewhere. It took a couple days. But I'll tell you, this happened on a Friday. By Saturday, we had people out in the field. We had contacted in person every victim. And by Sunday, we had prioritized where we were sending our troops. And by the following Friday, we had achieved recovery. I just want to...
Nancy, I got a question. Did you all practice? Did you do tabletop exercises before all these kinds of things happened?
Yes.
Because that shows to me effective leadership. Did they participate? Did they help you? And providing you a budget to make sure that you guys can do that.
Right.
I mean, across this country, though, it's scary, the governments that aren't doing it, the locals that can't do it because they don't have that funding. A lot of folks in local government, state government, we depend on you, the vendors out there, to become our partners and work with us as best you can. A lot of folks that do business with me understand I may not have a big lump sum of money at the beginning of something we need to do, but I've had a lot of vendors step up, and it's not that they're giving it to me for free, but they focus on, they're in our county, they want to help our county. So they put that olive branch out, they put that foot forward to help us. And then when we see something positive and something effective work, the vendors, that partnership just becomes even tighter for me as the CISO in Fairfax, getting those vendors to really help us out. Trying to get that to go across the National Capital Region seems like an impossible feat, because you do have the different types of leadership, the different types of government in each of those jurisdictions and what they do. But to me, our mission needs to make cyber a true priority, fund it, and get things done in your jurisdictions so that our citizens aren't the ones that suffer when we have these issues go up. Making sure you have resiliency and backups so that you can recover if you do get hit. But it is all coming back for me to leadership. And I need the leadership to either understand what they're doing or get out of my way and let me do my job.
And I just want to say, we're fighting a war, and we've got thousands of armies that aren't talking to each other. Mm-hmm. And I think the August 2019 ransomware incident kind of demonstrates when you bring a group together for a collective response, you can be very successful. And so my goal in Texas is, how can we recreate that and how can we expand that? We ended up with 23 impacted local governments. What if it had been 50? Would we be able to handle it with the resources we had? Probably. It would have taken a little bit longer. What if we'd had 100 local governments impacted? probably not. So we're working with strategies going forward to have the state prepared to respond. But I think the real thing is when a city council or when the legislature's meeting or when the leader of an agency is meeting to talk about how they want to ask for funding, it usually goes towards their mission. And of course, that's the most important thing. It's a workforce development agency. Workforce development should be their mission. A law enforcement agency, yeah, law enforcement should be their mission. But I want to just say that I don't think that you can achieve your mission without cybersecurity. And it has to become a part of your mission, because without it, you can't get anything done. And I've seen it happen 110 times in Texas over the last 2.5 years. And so that's what I want to leave you with. And Mike, I'll let you close.
If you're an IT leader, be a leader. If you hire IT security staff, IT staff, let them do their job. CIOs have a job to run the business of IT. Cybersecurity needs to come up to that same level as the CIO. Respect those folks that you hire. Let them do their job. Don't try to do it for them, because then it comes back to you. If you decide that you want to accept risk into your enterprise, you need to accept the accountability with that as well. But we thank you all, and Don, I thank you again for allowing us to be up here. Hope you all enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.